Hello, everyone, and welcome to this special session. Today, we are talking about your brain and your brain on Brzee and how it impacts the brain and basically why you should be chanting Brzee, right? So to start with a brief introduction, we're going to talk a little bit about the brain. So from 2 years old onward, we begin to develop the default network. And that is where the children start to form an identity, go against their parents, the terrible twos, right? That's because that identity and the development of the brain in that area is being created. It's developed, strengthened, and personalized. And then we use that default network, that default mind, that super highway for the rest of our lives. It builds on who we are and how we think. Now, we at Pillai Center did a few very basic types of experiments, you would say, with an EEG on how the brain looks before and after. And I'm going to show you a few minutes of that video just to help you get an idea of the activity of the brain on a default level versus when it's being used to meditate on Brzee. Now, it's not just saying Brzee, it's the meditation of it. Dr. Pillai talks about what's called the nada, the sacred mantra, this powerful sound. And when we just say the mantra, Brzee, for example, versus meditate on it, we're only getting about 1/4 of the power of it. So that's the benefit of meditating. So let's go ahead and take a look at this short video. I'm only going to show a few minutes of it. Here we go.
Here is that this the beta, that if you look on, in particular, I want to focus here on alpha and the beta zones here, the alpha and the beta, which are your basic default thinking mode network. And we all have slightly different hotspots in our brain about how we process information. So this person here, their thinking brain was ignited here and here. But what happened is as soon as they started doing Brzee, they were able to override their default network, their alpha and their beta. That normal, intense thinking mind slowed down. It wasn't this hyperactive left brain activity. It slowed down and it shifted the brain area just by chanting Brzee. And it moved to 2 different areas in the brain. Like you can see on this alpha here, on this screen here, this alpha. I'm going to give the technical brain areas, but don't worry about it. So what happened is the alpha moved from this thinking state over here on the left side, and then it moved over here to the left and right temporal and parietal regions and the occipital. So you have the default thinking hyperactivity network here shifting to different areas of the brain. And this is for higher intelligence. So when you're operating from these areas here, you have a little bit more targeted access to a different level of thinking. And this happened both, this picture here was when they were chanting silently, and then when they chanted Brzee out loud. Let me show you what happened. Let me see here. Okay, and when they did Brzee, just Brzee out loud, it was a very similar effect. I mean, when you chant out loud, you have a little bit of movement of your mouth and you have some other activity here. But again, you can see the alpha was shifting from, let me just put this one, this was her original alpha here. And then this one here, you can see a decrease in the intensity of the default network. And there is some other movement in here just because of moving the mouth and everything. The EEG will pick that up. You can see how quiet the brain also gets in these higher level frequencies. It becomes very targeted in the temporal lobe as well. So we're still doing a lot of analysis on this, and we want to share more about how that interrupts the your default network. And just the final part of what we're initially finding, I really want to show you is this. There's a concept in neuroscience called coherence. And I'm going to bring up another person's coherence picture. Now, coherence, all that means is how the different parts of your brain are talking to the other parts. And in this picture here, it's the amount of information flow. When you have a lot of the dark blue, it means that your brain is not connecting very well. It's not talking at all to any other sections. And this to me is really just totally remarkable. You can see here on the right that just by doing Brzee silently for 2 minutes, that excessive, inefficient beta thinking, that's all in the red there, completely disappeared. Instead, they got if you see no dots connected, it just means a normal amount of connectivity. What we're looking at are extremes. Blue is something abnormally not connected, and red is hyperactivity or lots of information flow. So when you have nothing, it just means everything's kind of in a balanced, steady state. So you can see particularly that all that thought energy, all that inefficient thinking completely disappeared. It's completely gone. And all of that loss of connectivity, the parts of the brain that were just like shut off and not quite working well at all in these creative thinking states of theta and in your delta state, all of a sudden those improved as well. There's no more disconnectedness. There's a lot more connectivity in a very balanced way. And let me just show you one more about chanting Brzee out loud. And we saw the same impact if you're chanting Brzee out loud as well. So this is if you're chanting out loud. Again, different areas, but the same thing. That stressful beta thinking, that inefficient thinking has completely disappeared. Now, you might be asking, oh, this is nice, but how long does it last? Can you really change your brain? And the good news is that you can, and it does last longer and longer. And in particular, the more you can see the impact in your brain, you get the principle of neurofeedback is when you start to see these changes implemented in your brain with your own eyes, and you see that feedback, there's a mechanism in your brain that says, oh, I did it right, I changed. And so you do it more, and you do it more, and you get a release of dopamine, and then you get really high, and you get really happy, and you stick with it, and you do it more, and you do Brzee more and more and more. And I think that's the problem with people who meditate, is that we don't actually get to see what's going on inside our brain. The changes happen, and then we go off in the world, and we get back into this beta state. And by the way, I think this beta state and inefficiency is indicative of many people. It's not just this one person, but we all have a unique signature. So we go back into this hyperactive beta state of inefficient thinking, this brain flow, or our default network where we saw where we just go into automatic mode from our habits. And what Brzee does is it interrupts these systems, and it puts the brain in the right transformative state that the yogis have been telling us it would for a long time, that you can interrupt this network. And it's really important for us to have a level of faith that it's happening. But the truth is, if we hooked you up to an EEG, which I know Dr. Pillai would love to have some devices out soon where you can self-monitor your changes, you would be so inspired every day. Like, I did Brzee for 2 minutes and it made this change. And if you get excited by that, just knowing that it really happened, you would have much greater results. But if you go back into your default network, like, okay, I did Brzee for 2 minutes, who cares, whatever. No, it's just another sound. It's just like human speech. And then you lose the impact of it, because it did make a difference. But then what happened is you put your default network mode, you're overriding the good impact of Brzee. So from what we're finding on our initial tests is that it's really important to stay with the sound. And from what the yogis and the siddhas have taught about this, the power of nada, it's not just your human speech. When you say Brzee, it is just another sound. But Brzee every sound has a secretive power to it. And we've been fortunate enough to be revealed this sound, which when you follow it, and Dr. Pillai during this Brzee course is going to show you how to follow this sound back to the source, how to put it in your body and your mind and your soul to have the greatest impact of change. It's a way of returning to the source of Brzee, which you can say is the goddess, Lakshmi, you can say it's Vishwamitra, but it's our connection to them. The nada sounds are not just spoken speech. They are secretive, they are powerful, and they give us that connection back to a higher frequency or an energy that can completely transform our consciousness. So as Dr. Pillai said, Brzee will change our baseline. And I totally believe that. We want to get out of our default system, which is our blah, blah brain. And basically, everything that Dr. Pillai had said earlier today about what we retrieve from our memory is basically garbage. What we need, and it's only gotten us as far as we've gotten today in life. So if we keep going back to our default mode, it's only going to get us where we are today. It's not going to be able to advance us further and make changes in our life. So we have to introduce something new, something that we know is going to change our brain and to change how we think and how we process information. And Brzee is going to do that.
There you go. I hope that you enjoyed that as much as I did. I really feel like it's a fascinating discovery. And we did this several years ago, but I wanted to bring this back up now because Dr. Pillai has been installing Shreem Brzee and Kleem Brzee into the chakras in our Amplified Attraction program. And now we're the next set of mantras and locations that he'll be empowering and initiating is the brain. So recently in the last session of this program, he did the crown chakra initiation. And he said the crown chakra is basically the brain. And so for the next 4 weeks, starting July 14th, he'll be empowering and installing both Kleem Brzee and Shreem Brzee into the frontal lobe, the right brain, the left brain, and the midbrain in 4 different initiations and empowerments and teachings. And I wanted to bring this in a conversation to light because it's so, to me, just so useful. And just like Bhargavi Maya was saying, we knowing that there is making an impact on our brain. Dr. Pillai's been saying it for years, right? Like that there's a signature that's left on the brain. There's an imprint on the brain from the mantras. In fact, something he said recently is the crown chakra, which is the brain, is the most powerful because it controls the entire body. And this is his quote: God has given us real, unlimited, supreme intelligence through the brain. The brain is incredibly powerful. We have to learn to use it. We are beginning to learn the specific parts of the brain do particular activities, such as math intelligence located in a certain location. Anterior cingulate gives us supreme intelligence through the one economo neuron, and which is considered a divine neuron. And he'll be empowering this with Shreem Brzee and Kleem Brzee. So he goes on to say, putting Shreem Brzee and Kleem Brzee into the neurons of the brain will open up the crown chakra and activate synapses, opening gaps and awakening divine intelligence. Every time we say Shreem Brzee and Kleem Brzee, the goddess shows up within the synaptic gaps. So I don't know if we can show that on an EEG, but this is a quote from him. Putting Shreem Brzee and Kleem Brzee into the neurons will open up the crown chakra. There will be so many synaptic activities, opening gaps and awakening divine intelligence. Every time we say Kleem Brzee and Shreem Brzee, the goddess shows up within the synaptic gaps. So how amazing is that? That's what Dr. Pillai is giving us. He goes on to say, the divine neurons in charge of intuition and wisdom wake up with the chanting of Shreem Brzee and Kleem Brzee and play an important role in making you an extraordinary being. So I feel like that says it all. Shreem Brzee, Kleem Brzee, waking up these creative neurons, and Dr. Pillai's empowerment because of his unique and masterful relationship with these mantras and the divine beings behind it. He has that ability to install them into our brain, into our chakras. So for the next 4 weeks, that's what we'll be doing. Shreem Brzee and Kleem Brzee into the logical mind, right? This frontal lobe, then the right brain and the left brain. Right brain for creativity, left brain for logic, and the midbrain for miracles, for intuition, for manifesting. That's what the program is about. And I hope that you received some good information on this brain Brzee on how Brzee affects your brain today. And if you have any questions, please post them now and I'm happy to answer. Yeah, there's some questions. Yeah, so I fast forwarded to that whole video. It's a 30-minute video and I just wanted to show a couple clips of that. If there's any questions, go ahead and post them now. In the meantime, I will talk a little bit more about what is happening with the course. And I can share my screen because I know that it takes a minute for folks to see. So this is the 4-week program, Amplified Attraction, the 4 weeks brain activation sessions for love and abundance. We're starting on July 14th. What is Kleem Brzee? What is Shreem Brzee? And here is really what we're talking about. The frontal lobe activation for purposeful abundance. The right brain activation and initiation for creative, intuitive abundance. The left brain activation for enhanced abundance logic, since that's the logical mind. And the midbrain activation and initiation to intuitively manifest abundance. You can click on this and it opens up more details of the benefits. And we get started on July 14th. We take 1 week break for Guru Purnima. So we're going through July 14th, then we skip the July 21st. We go right to July 18th, and then August 4th and August 11th. So we're skipping a week. And then this is how you can enroll. You'll receive weekly sessions where the initiations will be revealed. They are recorded by Dr. Pillai in advance, and then we show the video, but they're extremely powerful, very intense. The people in the course are like, this is one of the most intense courses ever, because you're literally getting a new teaching and initiation every week, which we never do in a program. It's always monthly with Dr. Pillai and then weekly with the teachers. But this time it's weekly with Dr. Pillai, so it's very immersive, very intense, and he is not holding back. Even though they're short empowerments and initiations, they are incredibly intense. So that will be happening starting July 14th. And do click through the registration link because oftentimes it will show a different amount for your currency. So you can take a look at that, see if there's any questions. When we have the next session on July 14th. So July 14th starts the program. It'll be 4 sessions in length. We skip over July 21st. Question is, great information. Can you listen to Brzee and get the same result, or do you have to verbally say it? You do not have to verbally say it. In fact, in one of what she had shown, it was silently meditated upon. So silently meditating on Brzee versus saying it out loud. And they had very similar effects on the brain. So I wouldn't worry about that so much. Listening versus sitting and meditating is also different. We didn't experiment on that, so I can't tell you for sure. But there is less of an impact if you're just listening while you're doing other activities, because that beta mind is still active. So Brzee has less of a chance to kind of come in and kind of overtake it. But when you're sitting and meditating and just listening or chanting inwardly, it would have the same impact. But less impact if you're just listening to it and doing other activities. Elise said, the meditation today with Kleem Brzee and Shreem Brzee was awesome. It gets better and better. Yeah, Elise is in the program, Amplified Attraction. And it does. Every week is just like better and better. So I can't wait till next week. Any other questions? All right, looks like that's all of our questions for now. I hope that you found this useful. I certainly did. I love refreshing on some information that helps to understand that, these mantras are making an impact on our brain, which makes an impact on our thinking, which makes an impact on our life. And one of the things you might want to experiment on is sensation, feeling sensations when you're chanting Shreem Brzee or Kleem Brzee into the third eye or the crown chakra or the midbrain or the brain areas in general, and seeing if you're feeling some tingling, some sensations, or a different in your mental state. And then logging that, acknowledging that, because as we also heard in the presentation, acknowledging that it's happening is helping to rewire our brain to confirm that it's happening. And that's something we can do for ourselves. Acknowledging miracles are happening into your life, acknowledging that the mantras are working for you, acknowledging that your life is getting better, even to yourself or other people, makes a difference. It rewires and reaffirms that that is what is true. And then that is what effectively happens. Right. I think that's all for now. Thank you all so much for being here. I hope to see you in the Amplified Attraction program next Sunday, July 14th. The sessions are usually pretty short, like 45 minutes. So it's not a huge commitment. The meditations themselves are around 10 minutes a day. So there's not a lot in terms of commitment for if in your busy life. Of course, you can certainly do more, but we are keeping it as streamlined and efficient as possible for our busy lives. So I hope to see you there. Wishing you an abundant week. Please remember to chant Shreem Brzee, Kleem Brzee, or just Brzee, and have a beautiful and abundant life. Namaste.